Okay, viewers, I'm here for episode 4 of ani-MAY-tion month, the review series where I take an animated film and I review it for every video I do in the month of May. Today we're looking at DreamWorks Animation, my first look at DreamWorks Animation. I will do some other DreamWorks movies. I'm going to try to balance out Disney, Don Bluth, and DreamWorks this month, and Pixar. I'm going to try to do a balance. This will probably return next year when I actually make the full month of it. I couldn't do the actual full month like I wanted to because I was moving for the first week. So, you're going to get what you're going to get. But today's episode is a very interesting episode because I'm looking at DreamWorks' second animated feature as far as I know. I know their first one was Ants, which I might get to if I ever do a Bug's Life. I just might do a quick comparison of the two of them for this. So, but the movie I'm actually looking at is The Prince of Egypt, the animated story of Moses. Some people have said this is an animated version of the Ten Commandments. That's not actually true. Because this is just the story of Moses. It's not an animated Ten Commandments. You can compare it to the Ten Commandments because there are similarities, but it predominantly is the story of Moses. And it opens up with a song called Deliver Us, sung by the Hebrew slaves of the Pharaoh of Egypt, Seti. And at that time, Moses' mother is sending him down the river so he can escape the, I guess, persecution or slavery from the Egyptians. And while he's flowing down the river, his sister Miriam follows him, and Miriam notices that he ends up in the Egyptian palace of the queen, who's voiced by Helen Mirren. So Moses grows up an Egyptian prince with his brother Ramses. Moses is voiced by Val Kilmer, who played Batman in Batman Forever. And Ramses is voiced by Ralph Fiennes, who I believe was in The English Patient. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't really know, but I believe he was in The English Patient. And there are songs in this movie, which I don't necessarily think this story needs to have songs in it. I don't think it needs to be a musical, but unlike some things where I'll get, like Pocahontas, which I'll get to if I do Pocahontas, it doesn't slow the story down or anything like that. So they're not really bad songs, but putting songs into something that doesn't really need songs is you're trying to copy Disney, because that's Disney's formula, and everyone knows it's Disney's formula. Now, this was also shortly after Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney and formed DreamWorks with David Geffen and Steven Spielberg. That's why the normal thing that used to follow DreamWorks pictures is SKG, because it stood for Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen. So, during a chariot race, Ramses and Moses destroy one of the Pharaoh's temples, and Ramses gets in trouble with Pharaoh, but Moses, gets him not in trouble. The Pharaoh here, Seti, is voiced by Patrick Stewart, otherwise known as Jean-Luc Picard for Star Trek The Next Generation fame. I haven't seen any Star Trek things, so don't ask me about who is better, because I really I can't answer that, so don't ask me who's better, Picard or Kirk. I cannot answer it. I've never seen any Star Trek at all. Other than the original, I think I've seen maybe 2 of the actual movies. I think I've seen Search for Spock and one other one, but I haven't seen anything else. So, now at this time, the Egyptian guards have gotten a woman from the Madain region or the Meridian region or something. And her name, I believe, is Tespora. I'm not gonna go in, I'm not gonna pronounce it that good. So I believe it's Dispora. TZ, or it has a T and a Z in it, and I don't even know how you would pronounce that. So, but she's voiced by Michelle Pfeiffer. Uh, and at that time, Seti has two high priests, Hotep and Hui. They're voiced by Steve Martin and Martin Short. So, now while chasing this Madain girl, Moses meets Aaron, who's voiced by Jeff Goldblum, and Miriam, who's voiced by Sandra Bullock. And Miriam tells Moses that he is their brother, but Moses doesn't believe her at first. So, Moses has this little dream sequence where he realizes what Seti is doing, and Seti says it's for the greater good because the Hebrews might rise up against the Egyptians. And then when Moses says maybe they shouldn't do that, Seti says, well, they're just slaves. So Moses eventually, in trying to stop one of the Hebrews from being whipped, he inadvertently kills the guy who is whipping the guy. And Ramses tries to convince him to stay, but Moses leaves. And he ends up in that region, that Madain region, or wherever Zipporah's from. And he meets Zipporah's father, Jethro, who's voiced by Danny Glover. And he eventually marries Zipporah. Now, I don't know if that's how the story of Moses goes, per se. I know a little bit about the story of Moses, but, the thing about anything based on any previous work is it's an adaptation, so there's going to be some liberties. So, I don't know if this thing was in the Ten Commandments. I don't remember that right now. It's been a while since I've seen the Ten Commandments. Like I said, I know most of the story of Moses, but there are some things. But anyway, Moses and Zipporah marry, and then going on, I guess, a walk, Moses comes across the burning bush, which is God. Now, God here is also voiced by Val Kilmer. And that's when God tells Moses to go and let his people go and free his people from Ramses. Which Moses at first says God's picked the wrong person because Moses doesn't feel like he can actually do that. But God tells him that God will help Moses, and he gives his staff, I guess, some magic powers or whatnot. So Moses goes to Ramses, and he says to, let the people go. And to try to prove his point, he turns his staff into a snake. Now, it doesn't scare Ramses off, and then him and Ramses have a talk, and then Ramses doubles the workload of the Hebrews, and they eventually all blame Moses for the problem. But Miriam convinces them to listen to Moses. So, one day, I guess it's the next day or a couple days after, Ramses is on a ship in the ocean, and Moses is trying to get his attention. Ramses sends some guards over to catch Moses, but Moses puts the staff into the water and it creates blood. Now, this worries the Egyptian guards, but Hotep and Hui, the high priest, basically do a trick because they put, I guess it's some mud or whatever into some water and it turns red. Now, if it was mud, then if it was dirt, it would just make mud. So I guess it was some kind of coloring that they used in the biblical times, I'm guessing. Because if it was dirt, it would have just turned into mud. It just would have been red mud and not Again, no, this is a movie, so you probably shouldn't put too much into stuff. So then, you know, after that doesn't work, God sends the plagues to Egypt in a song called The Plagues, where Moses and Ramses are reflecting on certain things. But right before the last one, Ramses and Moses have another little conversation, and Ramses is trying to tell Moses, can't it be like before? Can't it be like it was before? Which it sadly cannot be. The final plague is that God will smite all the firstborn in Egypt, but he'll spare the Hebrews if they have lamb's blood on the door of their house. And he spares all the Hebrews firstborn, but all the Egyptian firstborn are, they're smited by God, including Ramses' son, which eventually makes Ramses let the Hebrews go. So the Hebrews end up at the Red Sea, but the Egyptians, led by Ramses, are following them, and that's when Moses parts the Red Sea, which is essentially the climax of this movie. Moses parts the Red Sea, and as the Egyptians are chasing the Hebrews, the Red Sea unparts, and the Egyptians either drown or get kicked back to shore. At least Ramses gets back to shore. So, and the Hebrews eventually find home, or their freedom. Now, the movie ends with Moses getting the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai, which is why I'm really saying this is not the story of of an animated version of Ten Commandments, because they come in right at the very end, and it's not even much of a mention. It's just Moses gets them to deliver them to his people. Now, of course, the Hebrews were wandering the desert for 40 years, but as this is a movie, an animated movie, it needs a happy ending, so you can't really probably mention that in that kind of situation. So, how are the characters in this movie? Well, Moses is what he is. Moses is very good. Val Kilmer plays him very good. But this movie does Ramses different than the Ten Commandments does it, because it's been a while since I've seen the Ten Commandments, but I know that the Ten Commandments don't play up a lot between the relationship between Moses and Ramses, or at least I don't think they do. It's been a while since I've seen the Ten Commandments. Mind you, it's been a while, so my memory about what happens in it is fuzzy. But here, Ramses legitimately wants to have a relationship with Moses, but he's also trying to do what he thinks is right for his kingdom. It kind of makes him more sympathetic in a way, because from what I know about like I said, Ramses is more sympathetic because he's trying to legitimately balance two things here. He's trying to be Moses' brother, as well as trying to be the best pharaoh he can and do what he thinks is right, even though it's ultimately not right. The rest of the characters are what they are. Aaron kind of serves a doubting Thomas role for a while, until he eventually comes around. Miriam is kind of the voice of reason in the whole group. And honestly, the High Priest Hotep and Hoy are just there for comic relief, so that's really what they're there for. The songs are not bad. Like I said, I don't think they need to be there. I don't think songs needed to be in Pocahontas. I don't think they needed to be in Hunchback of Notre Dame. Although for Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I'll probably review in this, Disney probably needed them to lighten the mood of that movie, since it's based on a since that movie is based on a book that deals with an extremely touchy subject, being the corruption of, I believe it is, the Catholic Church, which I believe is what that deals with, which is why the Frollo character in that movie was changed. But like I said, I'll get into that if I ever review Hunchback of Notre Dame. And the score in here is great. It's a Hans Zimmer score. He's the same guy who I believe scored the Lion King, wrote the music for the Lion King. Could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I've seen the Lion King. Uh, so, and the animation is very, very good. Now, DreamWorks had just started doing animation, but this looks like Disney animation. Because this was the first time DreamWorks really had done a traditional animated film. Because, like I said, their first animated film was Ants, as far as I know. Now it's computer animated. I could be wrong, and I might have these flipped. I don't really remember. I don't know. But yeah, this is a very good movie, actually. The next movie will most likely be Disney, but I don't know. I should say that the only movies I will be reviewing in this for right now are movies I can find on either Netflix, YouTube, or that I have a DVD copy of. Because I'm not going to go out of my way to review any particular movie, so it's what I'm going to do here. So this will be in my ani-MAY-tion month playlist. If you like the video, like button is down there, subscribe button down there, and thank you for watching. Bye.